you go back, okay, in history, and remember what we're dealing with right now. They're all out. Like the NBC Nightly News anchor, he's out. I'm not sure really what was going on there. I have a feeling Joy Reid was just insufferable and very difficult to deal with. And they're hoping that Simona Sanders, who's going to replace her, and some others are going to be a little bit easier. I don't know. But here she is again, sobbing, because the day has come.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I think this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And then it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me.
You know what? The show didn't matter. The show had no value. Nobody was watching. And the only people that cared were actually people that wanted to double down on hate. And that's exactly what you did. I mean, that's exactly what you did. I have only to go back and look at, remember her white tears? Remember this one, guys? This is important. This is a very good contrast. Somebody put this up online of Joy Reid talking about white tears versus her tears that she has today. Let's see. Is it working? It's not working. Okay, we're going to try this again because I think this is a good one for you guys to see. Yeah. Let me see. I'm going to tell the producer right now. I need the clip because this is killer. This is absolutely killer. Absolutely killer. I mean, she's white tears. Come on, right? Give me a break. This is somebody who actually just built her entire career on this idea of hate. And it's amazing to me that you can actually have a career that's built entirely just on hate and division like that. I mean, what are we doing as a society rewarding that? Was that all part of Biden's DEI plan? If so, that's really, really wrong. But don't forget, just before the election, right, or on election night, I should say, they were kind of just, they didn't believe this could happen. This was like total meltdown moment for them because the night of the election, as these numbers came in from Rachel Maddow to the rest of them, Joy Reid, they had to come to grips with the reality. And they'd been living in this crazy la-la land for way too long.
Trump has now taken the lead in Bucks County.
NBC News now projects that in the battleground state of Georgia in the presidential race, Donald Trump has prevailed. The Republican Party will control the United States Senate. This is live from Howard University in Washington, D.C.
We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted. Thank you all.
A short and to-the-point statement from Cedric Richmond, the Harris campaign co-chair. You now see them turn as one to start to leave the grounds.
The evening was getting increasingly somber as people realized what this map is looking like. They turned off the TV set and just piped up the music because the room was starting to get increasingly somber.
You know, we always knew it was going to be down to the blue wall, and the blue wall is still uncalled at this point. But it sounds like the Harris campaign is sort of keeping things tight in terms of whether or not they're going to string people along into thinking this is going to happen.
What they went to that venue tonight hoping to see and witness was a historic election of Kamala Harris to the presidency, was the end of the Trump era as they knew it. And so we don't know the outcome yet, but that is not what they are receiving, and they are being told to go home and wait till tomorrow.
And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. You know, I mean, she had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Swifties. She had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign.
In Western Europe and in the...
Sorry, I'm still getting over a cold. So I have to be careful about laughing too hard. But I'm sorry, that was really funny. She's saying, oh, what a brilliant campaign. Well, if it was such a well-run campaign, let me just tell you, you would have won. But it was a terrible campaign. And I'm sorry, Queen Latifah, her endorsement means zilch to the rest of America because Queen Latifah doesn't live in real America. Queen Latifah isn't worried about the price of eggs. In fact, the more that campaign doubled down on their woke Hollywood celebrities, from Queen Latifah to Beyonce to Oprah, who, by the way, was paid, according to the New York Times, $2 million to sit down and do that interview that nobody watched on YouTube with Kamala Harris. I mean, that's wild. But why were they so invested? You've got to ask them, by the way. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, they're going to get to the bottom of this. Elon is already looking at all of this. He's figured out that USAID was actually selling a pro-Biden, pro-woke, insane agenda. I mean, the trans stuff alone, it's really bonkers. But anyway, they were spending hordes of money to the tune of $50 million to the New York Times, $8.2 million going to Politico. And before somebody says, oh, that's fake news. No, it's not fake news. You know why? Politico came up with a $10,000 a year subscription that they would give to government employees. Nobody needs a $10,000 a year Politico subscription. I mean, maybe a Bloomberg terminal subscription. Definitely not a Politico one. That was what you call a pass-through, okay? So they can wink, wink, nod, nod. Nobody uses the thing, but they can collect $8.2 million off of the whole shebang. Listen, David Sachs is all over this. He's our new crypto czar. I've played this soundbite for you guys before, but I want you to hear it again because it's really well said. It's nuts. I mean, even the BBC, 8% of their income was coming from good old USAID.
Okay, so we knew the U.S. government runs a $2 trillion deficit every year. We're in debt almost $40 trillion. And we also knew that anytime anyone tries to cut anything in Washington, the whole city screams bloody murder. Okay, so the question is just why? Well, now we know. The money is all going to them. It's like round tripping to them. New York Times, getting paid. Politico, getting paid. Bill Kristol, perennial warmonger, getting paid. Ukraine, getting paid. Like 11 out of 12 publications, Ukraine, getting paid.
Incredible.
Viktor Orban, who's the prime minister of Hungary, was saying that he's very popular in Hungary. His political opposition, funded by USAID. In Poland, the left-wing political opposition funded by USAID, and on and on and on it goes.
BBC. You wonder why everyone in the UK is so, yeah.
Like
I couldn't believe the BBC is getting paid.
Every left-wing organization in the world seems to be getting paid by this slush fund at USAID, which disperses about $50 billion a year. That's $1 billion a week. That's actually a lot of money. And so it makes you wonder, the left in general tries to portray itself as a movement of the people, that it's grassroots. This is the exact opposite. This is AstroTurf. This is basically money coming from the top down out of Washington to fund all of these groups, maybe not even in the United States, like all over the world. So it makes you wonder, what is the real level of local support for these left-wing policies all over the world?
Zilch, okay? Like, people don't believe that 12 and 13-year-old kids should be getting operations that are life-changing because there's a transgender population that thinks, you need to get these operations at that age. We don't even allow them to smoke or drink or vape. But somehow you can go under the knife for that. I'm sorry. No, it's messed up. But they embraced this wokeism. They tried to spread it throughout the world. They paid U.S. entities. Reuters, for example, was getting a ton of money. AP, $52 million. That's crazy. And so you wonder, I kept saying, I'm like, why am I the only one who's like, what is the media doing? Why are they doing this over and over and over again? Why do I have to hear that Donald Trump is the next thing since Hitler when, by the way, incredibly insulting to the 5-6 million Jews that were slaughtered in World War II, incredibly insulting to all of our soldiers that fought and many of whom died, saving this nation from Hitler and the world from Hitler. How insulting to our allies. And they just throw this language around like it's nothing? That's what this lady was doing who hosts their morning show. Is she next? Is Mika Brzezinski going to get fired along with her hubby, Joe Scarborough?
You need to believe him. And these are the final hours. We need you. We need you, and all of you to vote.
Yep. There you go. So, Mika, I think you heard us before you came out. We were talking earlier about yesterday's Trump rally from hell at Madison Square Garden. So what did you make of it?
Well, I think it was everything that you need to know about Donald Trump in one weird white nationalist Nazi-type rally. And of course, there's historic parallels to where and when this happened. But
wow. Again, highly irresponsible. So you had her hubby doing that. I played you a lot of those sound bites before. You had Joy Reid doing that. You had Rachel Maddow doing that. You had Lawrence O'Donnell doing that. So they're firing all these people. They're getting rid of Lester Holt. I actually never heard Lester do that. Lester was like much more of a clean shop. I think that one is sort of like Lester's kind of had it and he wants out because, you know, he doesn't want anybody messing with his scripts. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with the Lester thing, but they got rid of these other people that are, you know, really, really left and really, really liberal. And there seems to be this cleansing, but unless you actually cleanse, I think all of them, you're going to continue to have problems. Donald Trump weighing in on this today, and this was kind of funny. He's taking aim at the guy who runs the whole place, and that would be none other than Brian Roberts, who runs Comcast. Comcast is the parent company of NBC Universal, of course, which owns NBC and MSNBC. So he said, Brian Roberts, lowlife chairman of Comcast, not Comcast. Brian Roberts, the owner of ratings challenged NBC and MSDNC, you got it, has finally gotten the nerve up to fire one of the most, or the least talented people in all of television, the mentally obnoxious, racist Joy Reid. Based on her ratings, which were virtually non-existent, she should have been canned long ago, along with everyone else who works there. Also thrown out, Alex Wagner. I forgot to mention her. Alex Wagner, the sub on the seriously failing Rachel Maddow show. Rachel rarely shows up because she knows there's nobody watching. And she also knows that she's got less television persona than virtually anyone on television except perhaps Joy Reid. Then there's, of course, the low IQ con man, Al Sharpton. Oh, he's another one, right? That got the $500,000 right before he sat down with Kamala Harris for that MSNBC interview. I mean, what are these people doing? They're running quite a shop, for goodness sakes. The low IQ con man, Al Sharpton, who has perhaps the lowest TV ratings in the history of television. What is he doing to Brian Roberts to stay on the air? This whole corrupt operation is nothing more than an illegal arm of the Democrat Party. They should be forced to pay vast sums of money for the damage they have done to our country. Fake news is an unpardonable sin. So he's got no use for this network. Of course, he also was calling them a threat to democracy in the wake of the NBC Universal lawsuit settlement. Just unbelievable. But you know, I played for you that little clip of Mika, and you know that Mika couldn't stand Donald Trump, nor could her husband stand Donald Trump. And yet, I think these two know which way the wind blows. I mean, while Joy's doubling down and telling everybody not to go to Thanksgiving dinner, look what they ran off and did.
For the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Boom! Saving their jobs. That's all that was about, guys. So, like, I don't know, they were getting USAID money or what was going on before, because they sounded like crazy people about the World War II stuff, and he's Mussolini and he's Hitler and he's this and he's that. And I played this one clip. I won't do it again because, you know, we don't need to see any more of these rather self-important individuals. But Joe Scarborough was like wild, okay? He's absolutely wild. And then he's the same guy who was trying to tell you, best Biden I've ever seen, give me a break. So they were singing some song and dance, not to be trusted. Clearly, these are people that cannot be trusted, because what did they do? As soon as Trump wins, they're trying to save their tails, so they hightail it down to Mar-a-Lago. And, you know, Trump's a nice guy and he's willing to talk to them, whatever. But, like, come on. First of all, they've alienated their audience, because their audience is like, wait a second, where are you? What are you doing? Why would you do something like that? Just look at the ratings. I mean, for God's sakes, they're plummeting. I mean, Morning Joe down 40%, Joy Reid down 55%. So yes, I would think that Morning Joe would definitely be in jeopardy, except for the fact that you got a couple of corporate players there who know how this game is played. And they are going to do whatever they have to do to survive, because they are survivalists. And he's a politician and she's her own kind of politician. I mean, after all, she married the boss, right? Come on. I mean, let's be realistic here. Those two are going to manage to keep their jobs. Everybody else, I'm not so sure of. Rachel Maddow, I'm not so sure of, honestly. Like, I don't know if she's going to be able to hang on. Rachel Maddow is enormously talented at creating a narrative out of nothing that's crazy conspiratorial. Like, I remember during the Russia stuff, watching her and being like, and they think that we're, those of us on the right, out there because we don't actually believe this nonsense. And she's like, night after night after night, bated breath. Oh my gosh. And remember Trump's taxes? She was going to get her hands on Trump's taxes. I mean, she was trying to create this, this sort of dialogue with the viewer that would make them have to come back, because she was going to have these little drips and drabs of a crazy story. So I will give her this. She's talented. Okay. She's talented at what she does. She's a talented conspiratorial con artist. All right, that's Rachel Maddow. She's not delivering the news. She's delivering some kind of conspiracy. And she's good at doing it. So does she stay? She may. She also, and I've got specific intel on this because I've talked to the bosses at NBC before, she's easier than others to work with, meaning she works well with management. My hunch is that Joy Reid was just a disaster on every single level, right? Like, and just nobody wanted to be around her. Nobody could take her anymore. And so they were like, we're sorry, hun, you're done. The other two on the morning show, they kind of know how to play ball. They're more political. They're running down to Mar-a-Lago. And then Rachel is somebody that they feel like they can work with. So maybe she's okay. Maybe Lawrence O'Donnell's okay, and that they can work with him. Al Sharpton, I don't know. I think that Trump hit the nail on the head. It's like, what has he got on Brian Roberts, right? What does Al Sharpton got? Because man, oh man, he really doesn't belong on television, period. Definitely not. Anyway, they're all gone. They're starting a new show with this Simona Sanders and Michael Steele and Alicia Menendez. And this is all courtesy of the new person who's running it, Rebecca Cutler. I don't know much about her. I assume she's cut from a similar cloth as some of these other libs, but she's not willing to put up with Joy's crapola, as we would say, right? Just no more of it.